Allow me, if you will, to ask you to go back to the year 2017. The month is September. And a young man getting through his life, struggling to make many meaningful connections, having trouble getting focused and working through the issues he was going through at a regular pace, was spending most of his lunches after eating in the computer lab, just listening to music. And then one day, something started showing up in his recommendations. Something that had come out recently and looked somewhat interesting. So, extremely curious, he started watching videos about something called Cuphead. And there was a channel called Gamers React Comp that showed other people playing this game. And that game heavily transformed him into the person he is today. The game was Cuphead. September 29th of 2017, it broke its way to finally be released to the public. And the man was named Paul. 5 years later, he sits in front of the screen that influenced so much of the person that he is today, his interests, his fandoms, what makes a good chunk of him tick when it comes to entertainment. And I decided that there was no other better way to celebrate this occasion and honor the most important game in my life than playing it. With all that being said, I thought it was only fair today, on the 5th anniversary of Cuphead, to just try out a face cam for the first time in a game and just play through some of this phenomenal game. Okay, and we are recording. So, to show off just how important this game is to me, let me adjust my camera a little. I started actually fully playing this game, owned it and able to use it on a computer earlier this year, only a month or two ago, with my new computer. And to show how much I've been enjoying playing this game and how much it means to me, 300%. Every boss complete, every boss on expert, every run and gun on pacifist, every coin, secret, achievement, everything in the main game that I can unlock, except for 2 achievements, fully completed. That is how much this game means to me. The only 2 things I've been unable to do to it is the Bravo Zulu achievement by playing through all the airplane bosses with mini bullets, and Hardy, which is get 9 HP. I know that Game Genie, whatever, is in the DLC, but I can't figure out how to unlock him on a keyboard. But with that being said, today I really just wanted to play some Cuphead again and talk about the influence it's had on my life and how much it means to me. And that's what I'm going to do today with all of you. So we are going to honestly start by, I'm just going to do a boss from each world and maybe one of the King's Leap, and we'll just see how well it goes overall. So we're going to talk to the boatsman and go to aisle 1. I haven't really given a thought to who I'm going to fight. I'm just going to pick at random and spend, because of how well I know these bosses, I'm going to spend most of it just talking about this game and everything it did for me. So, yes. Heart ring, sure. Why not? Let's just fight Goopy for old time's sake. Um, what instantaneously drew me to Cuphead so much when it came out and I got familiar with it is how I already was such a fan of classic 1930s cartoons, even not knowing a ton about them. There happened to be a book in my middle school library that I had discovered a little before Cuphead that was an encyclopedia of Disney's cartoons and creations that was dated, I think, mid 70s, but it covered all of their earliest works, and I just really got drawn into that book. And so Cuphead just instantaneously for me said, no, this game was made for you. Even before I learned that it was hand drawn, like the entire game is hand drawn, I just thought, oh my gosh, this looks exactly like it. This is really cool. And I just slowly became really, really engrossed in it. And every day I seemed to discover new things about it that really intrigued me. I loved the bosses. I loved the music. I adored the visuals. I liked the characters. I loved how cool it was, how difficult it seemed to be. Like, my friends, and even to a lesser extent my family back then, basically knew that I was practically inseparable from this game. I was truly a complete addict, Cuphead addict, in the best possible way. There we go. And it just brings back so many memories for me. Like, Cuphead is not like the first game I ever played, but it is the game for me. Just that one game that you have that means the world to you, that truly just gives you that special sense of nostalgia that nothing else can. And for some, it's when we were a lot younger. For me, it was when I was 12 in the 7th grade. And just everything about this game brings back just a wealth of nostalgia and excitement that few games can when I watch them or play them. And just like, it's insane to think about back then how little I knew about games overall by comparison. I just didn't know as much as I know today and how involved I've gotten with so many other things. And I really don't think there's any franchise in the video world of video games that has influenced me and affected me as much as Cuphead has. As like, not even Mario, not even Sonic, not Five Nights at Freddy's, Minecraft, anything else that has been a major part of my life has affected me like Cuphead did. I made sure to dress up for the occasion. You can't see it, but I'm wearing my Cuphead socks. I have on my Cuphead hat I got GameStop a few years ago, and the only Cuphead shirt I have that fits me, because I've only ever owned two, this is a really special hat. A very special hat, and an even more important shirt to me, because it was the first piece of Cuphead that wasn't the game that I ever owned, and it meant the world to me. Right now we're fighting Hildeberg, who is the first airplane boss in the game. And I'm pretty rusty. Part of it is I have always had to play this game with a keyboard. I don't own an Xbox controller, and I don't have the time or patience to try and connect it to my computer or whatever. So I just play with a keyboard. So on the airplane modes, I'm using the arrow keys instead of a controller, which can be pretty annoying. All of this was done on the same save file. So there's a lot that's gone on with it. Like right here with Quadratus, 648 deaths across my entire playthrough of this game to get to that 300% completion. Do I want to fight? Okay, we'll fight Baroness, but first I am going to put this back on. Oh, shoot, she's still on Expert. It's fine. I have personally unlocked the Golden Chalice skin right here, which is only unlocked by beating every previous boss, not in the DLC, with her, in a synchronous order. And it wasn't easy to do, but it's well worth it, because she looks great in this skin, and I really like it. Like, it's weird, because, like, just Cuphead is a game for me that I could talk mile a minute about. Like, I could literally talk about, like, the behind the scenes, the references, the gameplay, the ideas, all the merchandise, all of it. I could literally talk all day about it. It is just that game for me. game for me. And not a lot of people can say that, and the people who can say it know how important that game is to them. Because, like, I own both of the Cuphead novels. I pre-ordered The Art of Cuphead when it was announced, and got it on March of my 16th birthday after it was delayed from originally going to be released in October the previous year, and loved it to bits. I love the art book. Is what got me into concept art a lot more than I ever had, which is why I'm so involved in doing it with my Epic Mickey video now. If it looks like I'm not breaking a sweat, the difficulty, actually. Something that I can definitely talk about with Cuphead is the difficulty. What Jared and Jad Moldenhauer, the creators of Cuphead, wanted to do with this game is what they missed most was 2D platformers. And just that the embrace, because they grew up with games like Contra and Gunstar Heroes by Treasure and the like, and that is what they missed more in gaming. It wasn't so much difficulty as it was that sense of freedom and excitement and playing with your friend or your older brother or sister or any of that. That is what they missed most in the first place. Before Cuphead even knew what it looked like, that is what they wanted to make first, a game like that. So then they decided it needed to have a visual hook to draw people in, instead of just being a 2D platformer trying to revive a dead genre. So they tried out actually a lot of different concepts, because they have said in the foreword to The Art of Cuphead that they were really looking for just something that fully reflects in a positive way the imperfections of human craft. And just they've always been drawn to that kind of thing. And then what they tried out was a black and white style similar to the old VHS cartoons they used to watch as kids. And once they tried it, they realized they had the style they were looking for. And with that, Cuphead slowly grew and grew and really grew. And just, it's a really interesting history across the game itself and then the development of each boss and character. There's a lot that got removed, thousands of sketches of characters that could have been their own thing in this game that were just deleted for one reason or another. And it all is so interesting to read into. And I'm really, really hoping they go back and do that with The Delicious Last Course. I love to see what the art book is for that game 5 years after the original. I am so excited to see if they do that with everything that gets into. But I'll try not to talk about The Delicious Last Course until we get there. This part right here with the castle was for many people's first times, and one of the things I would watch most in 7th when seeing this game was, for many people, the true wake-up call that Cuphead was a horribly difficult game. Just the Charging Baroness Castle drove people insane with how hard it was in trying to beat it. And it's so fun to look back on. And I know a lot of this is rambling, but like I just say over and over, there's so much to talk about with this game, so much that I love and I appreciate with it, that I just can't help it. I just can't help getting so excited over it. So, honestly, for Inkwell 3, let's do 2 of my favorite bosses in the entire game. And 2 that I hold a very special place in my heart over. And the first one, of course, is Werner Vermin. Marine Corps is probably in my top 4 favorite soundtracks of this game, which is high praise because there isn't a single track in this game I don't like. Christopher Madigan, I think, is a phenomenal composer. I had never heard of him before this game, but I really got to know his works. I had to do a project in high school about influences throughout history and music, so I had to look back to so I chose Christopher Madigan and looked at what inspired him most, and learned about a composer called Jelly Roll Morton, and just a really interesting assignment all the way around there. And just in general, I don't think Christopher Madigan has ever made a bad track, even if he and I personally disagree because Pyramid Panic is his favorite one. That's one of my least favorite of the entire game, which isn't even a bad thing. It's just how I feel. But he's the composer and he's more than welcome to his own perspective. The cat has an official name here. I forget it off the top of my head, but he does have an official name. And he is obviously a direct reference to Tom from Tom and Jerry. And they really wanted to make sure that they went a little darker with the game. And I honestly think, like many others feel, that the twist behind the cats in this boss fight is one of the best in the game. Like, come on. That's such a brilliant idea to have it be the rat all along with a robotic cat. With that, we... only one parry. Yeah, so we scrape an A- there, and we are going to go to one of my other favorite bosses in this game. Because, as anyone who knows me and knows my love for holidays, you shouldn't be the least bit surprised at who we're fighting. Railroad Wrath. I'm sorry, I know people don't like this boss. I know the parry mechanic annoys people. I know that it has plenty of flaws. But I'm sorry, this boss is just amazing to me. The aesthetics are perfect. The bosses look amazing. I think the mechanics was really fun. I love catching the Pez. As I love the Blind Spectre, that's his actual name. I love the Conductor. God, I just love this boss so much. Halloween is not exactly my favorite holiday, or at least not the most important holiday to me, but it is the one that I get most excited for every year, ever since I was a kid. And it means so much to me already that this boss was just a perfect way to end this journey before getting to Inkwell Hell. Hell, just getting to watch it is such a treat for me. So this phase is really confusing for people because these two, many call the Blaze Brothers, but in the art of Cuphead, they are called Lollipop Ghouls. And they don't explain where that name comes from in the book. That's just their name, and I don't get it, but it is what it is. So people are pretty conflicted on what their actual name is. And it's for better and worse. They still look pretty cool. It's my least favorite phase, but I love getting to do stuff like that, melting them when their head is off of the pike. And then, of course, the train itself, in what many find to be the hardest phase of this fight. But when you use Chaser, it's no problem at all. You gotta watch for the bones, and then just really be careful with the fire and constantly hold up. And you can do a nice trick like that with the bone ring to spawn it right before the heart opens up. Using Chaser will mean that it will take a while, but it's still completely worth it, as there we have our knockout. Just easily one of my favorite bosses in the game. Just so much personal preference and style and personality all over. I'm going to get a lousy score for it, but it's fine as... I could move on to Inkwell Hell, or just go straight to Aisle 4 and do 2 bosses there, because I'm not good at King Dice or the Devil. You know what? Here's what we will do. People might not know this, but there is, thanks to the DLC with Miss Chalice, there's a new ending cutscene with the Devil here. So what we're going to do is make sure I have the cookie equipped. The Astral Cookie equipped. Go to the Devil, who, yes, I have S-ranked. I have S-ranked the Devil and King Dice. It was monster to do, but I have achieved it, and I'm so proud of that. So we're going to go to the Devil with the Astral Cookie equipped. Give him the soul contracts. Well, I'm screwed. And there you have the bad ending. One of my favorite video game cliches that I wish would get brought back. I really miss game over screens like that actually have some bite to them instead of just showing game over, restart. And I love that they added Miss Chalice to that. It was a really cool touch in adding it up. It really, really is a lot more fun to watch, especially since she turns to a completely different color as well. And I really, really like it. As I try and fast forward to the credits, I'll talk a little outside of the game when it comes to Cuphead before we go to aisle 4. The books are really good. I've read both of the novels and the first volume. No, not the first. And the second volume of the comic book. I don't own the first volume, but I've read the second volume, and I have read both novels. And they take place, I think, in a different timeline than the games, is the intention. But it's really fun to watch, nonetheless. The Cuphead show. So, I'm not very far into the show. Just because I get really busy and I don't watch a lot of Netflix. So I haven't gotten into season 2 yet. I like it fine. I don't love it, but I like it fine. The animation is still pretty good. It's nothing I love, but it still works pretty well. The voice actors are fine. There's nothing great about it, but nothing bad at all. Which is the best way to describe it for me. And I don't know. We'll see after I watch more of it if I like it or hate it. But outside of those, there's not a lot to say outside of the books, outside of just I really enjoy them. And there's not a lot to say about the show outside that it's good. And I'm glad it exists. So with that being said, we are now in aisle 4. The DLC took 5 years to complete. Especially due to COVID restrictions, as they're originally intended to come out in 2019, then 2020, and then finally in 2022 due to the pandemic. I, like many others, feel it was well worth it, and that it is my preferred way to play Cuphead with the DLC, and it has some of my favorite moments from any video game ever. So first off, we are going to undertake the Bootlegger Boogie, which is some people's favorite boss in the DLC. And what I have to say of that is yes and no for me, because I am a sucker for 1930s speakeasies, gangsters, floozies, jazz, all of that. I am an absolute sucker for. I think it translates beautifully into Cuphead's world, and that they did a great job translating it into this game without shying back on anything. I mean, they have the guts to show that, yes, they are mixing moonshine in here. They are doing things that were considered pretty dang illegal in this game with this boss, and they don't shy on it. They don't try to get away with, oh, no, they're making root beer. No, they actually have the guts in 2022 to show negative things in what is portrayed as a kid's game. I don't think Cuphead is explicitly a kid's game. I think people very commonly misidentify that. But it works very well in my opinion. Nonetheless, for them to actually show what it is. The Firefly here is a great character. I like her a lot. They have confirmed that the Spider Bouncer is married to her. That they are a married couple, which makes sense. This phase can be tricky if you don't have the right equipment for it. Like, I don't have Crackshot with me, which I meant to for this boss. But what I do love, as people notice, is that this phase is a reimagined version of a deleted boss that was found in the game's files called Light, who was an unused King Dice boss. And they adapted his movements and his attacks into her phase, which is really, really cool. And I love when games do stuff like that. They just take ideas that were really good and they didn't get to use and then redevelop them into this. And you'll see this a lot in my Epic Mickey review, but it's something that when done right makes for a much better experience than just creating new things for the sake of new. Taking something that wasn't explored in the first game and getting to adapt it anew and experiment with it. I really want to get to the final boss of today's video and the celebration because I have a lot to talk about with that one too. So if we can beat them on this try, then all's good. And if we can't, then I'm just going to go straight to them. Because as much as I love Cuphead, I can ramble on it. And especially without properly focusing, I end up quite literally just going on and on about what I love about it. I really like her super, Miss Chalice's super. I love that all three of her supers were redesigned like that, and her second one is easily the best super in the game. I don't like the hitbox on the Firefly when she's beaten, but what I do love is how awesome this third phase is. I legitimately think this is a really fun and cool third phase concept. I think the Anteater looks great, and something that I really love is that every boss in the DLC has a unique gimmick. Not just to be a gimmick, but more a gimmick as in something with the fight itself that the other bosses do not have for the most part. And it's really fun to watch when you can identify them. With the Moonshine Mob, this is the mechanic. Oh, I got really close. But that's the mechanic. Oops. Mechanic with the Moonshine Mob is things going on in the foreground and the background, and you having to respond to them like so. And that's just a really fun mechanic with that. So, to close out our video today, we are taking on possibly my favorite boss in all of Cuphead. Ladies and gentlemen, Chef Saltbaker. The ending to the delicious last course is one of the greatest animations I have ever seen in my life. I am not kidding when I say that the animation quality in this one boss fight by an indie studio is up there with my favorite animated movies of all time. In just 3 minutes, it gives me some of the most gorgeous and brilliantly done animation that I think has ever been put into a video game. Just honestly look at this. Look at how the foreground works with the background here. You're like, they know how to layer it successfully here. And then we get to this. The first time I saw this, my jaw dropped when I watched this boss fight for the first time in that transition. I think this phase is really cool. I think the mechanics work well. I think it looks utterly gorgeous. It is so climactic and such a blast to watch and play. Like, the only thing that I legitimately do not like about this boss, besides one other thing which we'll get to in a little bit, is the calcifer that is bouncing up and down here. Because, okay, again, amazing animations and a brilliant transition to a completely new phase in the fight, something the original game wasn't able to attempt. But just, I don't like the flame there because it's a very obnoxious and awkward projectile to try and deal with. This phase is an awkward intermission, more gorgeous animation in the background there, and now we get to a climactic finale. I honestly think this is a great final phase. It's not easy, it's not overly hard, but it looks so good. Just the spiraling salt pillars behind us, the ability to parry off him. Ow! It is just so gorgeous. The animations alone make this my favorite boss fight in Cuphead. And I can't praise it enough. As someone who deeply values good 2D animation and desperately misses a time when that was more relevant, this studio and this game shows me the life that can still live on for hand-drawn animation and how much it is being ignored today and the incredible things with today's technology that we can do with it. And it really is just nothing short of breathtaking in my eyes. But with all that being said, there really isn't much else to say other than Chad, Jared, and Maha Moldenhauer, thank you with all my heart for giving me the most important game of my entire life. Here's to half a decade of Cuphead. And to many, many more.